Hey rail fans and model railroaders, welcome back to another episode of Getting Back on Track with Steve
and Roxy. Last week we finally got our bridge track in, so we were able to set our bridge in place, get all the cork laid on the upper and outer loop.
So that means this week our focus is going to be on laying the rest of our flex track out, completing our track laying all the way to the swing bridge, working out the details of that swing bridge so that we can have a complete loop by the end of the day. So with that being said, let's get this work done. So the first thing we want to do is we want to take and sand all of our cork. We want to make sure it's nice and flat and smooth at the joints, and we want to smooth out all of the edges where we'll be running the ballast out. Particularly pay attention to the areas that are facing in that you'll easily see. Once we clean up all that cork, I can go ahead and position the bridge into its place and start cutting some track. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our flex track and we're going to remove ties on the end, on each end, and then we're going to fit our pieces together all the way up to the bridge so we can cut the exact size of piece we need to attach into the bridge. What's important about this is we remove those rails or the ties at the ends of these pieces, and that allows for the rail joiners to be sliding back and forth, so we can slide the rail joiners back onto the flex track on either side and be able to lift our bridge completely out so we can work on the scenery in that area. We've done the same thing at all of our turnouts. We want to make sure we can remove the turnouts later so we can put our tortoise machines in. So here again, we're going to go ahead and shape our curve. We're going to cut our pieces to fit into the next turnout. We're taking care to make sure we're filing all the edges of the cut track. We don't want any burrs that will cause problems for the trains or the rolling stock. I think what's really important here is to really go ahead and take your time and think about what you're doing, because the track work needs to be correct, it needs to be right. Otherwise, it's not going to be fun to run trains if you're always derailing. So I think a little forethought and taking your time goes a long ways in this hobby. So now we're on the run leading up to the first joint on the swing bridge. And what we're going to use here is we're going to use a re-railer so that going in either direction, we got a re-railer you'll hit as you come off the swing bridge, and also one as you go onto the swing bridge. So what I've done to prep to go across the swing bridge is I want to make sure my track, as it's going across the seams here, that it doesn't move. We want to be able to really secure these down. It's good and solid. So what I've done is taken a 1/2-inch piece of plywood. I've cut our arc into it, put a piece on both sides. I put another piece of lumber here and here. So these are all even with our foam that we put on top. The cork and track will go directly on here. And in between we have our foam, and we marked out both of our lines going across here. So with that, we can take, these are the pieces that I cut off previous. I can go ahead and get these into place and glue them in. Let's see here, I think it was this way. Is it that one there? Yeah. So if I glue our pieces in place, I think let's go this way. But if we put these into place, then I could run the rest of it across over here and join up over on this side. And that's just a matter of laying out A couple more pieces on here. Another one over here. And we'll have 2 complete lines that'll run across this bridge. But right now I'm really focused on this one here. So for the swing bridge, first we're going to cut all our pieces and mark where the joint is. And then we can get these glued into place. Then we can go after getting our track to fit up again. Now, of course, we're going to use re-railers going on and off on this side of the swing bridge as well. And here we want to make sure we take our time, get everything lined up, get them cut so we don't have huge gaps at the joint, but just enough where the bridge will swing in and out. So here I tried using a Dremel for the cut, and I wasn't happy with the cut it made. So I ended up getting another piece and then going ahead and using my track cutters to cut it, and it seemed to do much better. So as I position it, I'm going to use that boxcar so I can make sure it goes over there and lines up correctly. So now the fun begins. Now that we've got all our pieces cut and all our links figured out, we can solder everything together. So starting back at the far end where the curve is, we get our long pieces of track and the shorty that takes us into the bridge. Then coming out of the swing bridge, back over to the truss bridge, we've got another few solders we need to make in between the turnout in the bridge and then from the turnout going up to the swing bridge. So here we're attaching our track to our re-railer. And this is for the piece that goes between the swing bridge and the turnout. So now we can go ahead and start gluing everything down. So we're using the latex caulk and spreading a thin layer over the top of it, and this will dry clear. And then we'll position our flex track in, and we're going to use our little track setter tool that we made and lots of pins. We want to make sure that we're fairly straight. We do have a slight joggle almost to the bridge to make things line up with the bridge track, but that's okay, it's very slight. But here we're going to use lots of pins because we want to make sure that it sets and dries nice and flat. So now we can go to work on the first curve coming the other side of the bridge. We'll get our latex caulk in place, spread it out thin, hook up to the bridge track, and then start positioning it around the curve. And then attach it to our joint and then onto the swing bridge. Once you have everything cut and soldered together, it gets much easier putting all this together. Everything's fitting right, everything's lining up good. I'm pretty happy with it so far. So here we need to add some feeder wires over the bridge because it's isolated. I'm using 22 gauge solid wire. Drill a couple holes on either side of the track rails, drop our feeder wires in. We can solder those in later after we get these glued in place. Make sure everything's lined up, and then you can see we're using some rail spikes right into the plywood. They're long enough that they go through the cork and in the plywood, and it's going to hold everything securely so we don't have to worry about things coming loose and misaligning at the joints. Now the fun. Everything's dry. I go into machine mode and start pulling pins. All right. So now the next step is I want to go ahead and get the power so we can test this track out. Here I'm attaching the feeder wires to the rails on the outside, and then I can slide across the track with the boxcar to make sure the joints are right. And then I'm going to hook it up to my transformer. I've also got a little 9-inch piece that I'm going to hook into the other side that'll power the rest of the rails, which works for DC. I can go with just that. And then I'm going to run a single loco to check the joints at the swing bridge joints, and then again over at the truss bridge. And to make sure everything's good, I'm going to hook up a bunch of box cars, because a problem you'll run into is if the joints aren't lined up, it'll cause the box cars to uncouple, and it could be a real problem. So we're going to test it numerous times to make sure this is lined up and working good. And everything seems to be going okay. It's nice and smooth. I don't even notice any jiggling or bouncing around when it hits these joints. I think we're in pretty doggone good shape. And it looks great just running along. It's been about 7 months since we first started planning this layout to get to this point here. And while for some people that seems like a long time, for me this is a lot of work, and it took a lot of thought and effort to get to this point, and I'm so happy we are. So now that we can run a complete loop at this speed, I timed it out, and we're just about 1 minute and 15, 1 minute and 20 seconds to do a complete lap all the way around. So that's just, to me, just great. This is about 64 running feet of track. I can't wait to move forward and get more and more track laid. Pretty soon we'll have another couple of lines, another one on the upper and another one on the lower.
Well, there you go. We got all the track laid, so we finally have a complete loop, including across the swing bridge.
Now, one thing we didn't really think about is originally we had a little 9-inch piece for DC we could hook our power to, and we're going to test out the track. But I forgot that the swing bridge is isolated from the rest of the track, so we had no power on it. So we had to do some temporary feeder wires on that piece of track to be able to get an operational loop working.
So going forward, we're going to focus on one task at a time. We'd like to get all the rest of the cork laid for the entire rest of the layout so that we can move forward with that, and then look into maybe printing some buildings or deciding where things are going to go.
Yeah, there's a lot to be done yet, but I think focusing on one thing at a time and completing all of it will be a little better than what we've been doing, where we're focusing on a section at a time and completing a full section. Now we can look at the whole layout and do everything, including the peninsula, and then we can lay track to the whole thing. But the good news is, now we have a train. We feel like we're actually model railroaders. We're running stuff in a loop. And this is really awesome.
So exciting.
So, in the meantime, while we're here working, you guys have fun running your trains, working on your layouts.
Hit like and subscribe so you're notified of our next video.
There it comes. I'm so excited. I just can't stand it. But we'll see you again next time here on Getting Back on Track with Steve
And Roxy.
Bye, all.
Guys.